Hello and welcome to the Learner Journals. Today I am here with senior 3D animator, nerd, and polyglot, I happen to know. Jill, how are you?
Hi, I'm
Hi.
great. Thank you so much for having me.
So for those of you who cannot see Jill and just listening, she's there wearing her red Pixar hat because of the animation thing. I'm assuming you've been there, have you? Have you been over to the animation studios?
I've visited. I haven't worked there, unfortunately. It's kind
No,
of
oh, you haven't worked
that's
for
the
Pixar?
dream. I haven't worked
Oh,
with Pixar, no,
um,
but
have you inadvertently worked for them because you've worked for various? So I'm going to.
no, I've inadvertently worked for Disney, but not
They
for
own,
Pixar.
but they own Pixar, don't they?
Well, yes, but Pixar animation studios are still their
Totally
own
separate.
thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay,
but
okay.
I've worked on live action movies that were Disney
Related.
made, yes, done
So
by Disney.
I'm gonna reel off a couple if you don't mind for the people listening. So just a bit more detail on Jill as we're here. 3D artist. You've worked on shows, The Greatest Showman, for example, with Hugh
Yes.
Jackman, right? I love the
Yes.
songs from there.
Me
X-Men:
too.
Dark Phoenix,
Yeah.
Shazam,
Yeah.
Nutcracker, and Shang-Chi as well. Shang-Chi or
Yeah.
Shang-Chi. You you can be found, and I'm going to say this right at the front, on Instagram at Jillustrations. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Also on YouTube under the same name. Jill is, by the way, spelled Jill. I know some people spell it with G.
Mm.
Do you ever have to say that when people ask you? Do they ever say, if you say, "Oh, my name's Jill" with a J? Do you ever have to say that?
Yeah. I usually have to spell it out sometimes, or they think they assume I'm called Jillian, which is not the case. It's just Jill.
Jill. Okay.
Also,
Cool.
it's not an Austrian name. I'm Austrian. You have to know,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
and it's obviously an American name. But
No,
so here in Austria, actually, it's very funny. People get confused a little bit.
really, Jill.
Yeah.
Yes. I wonder who I feel more sorry for. Jill's with J or Jill for G with G. I mean, Jill with a G. It sounds like
Well,
Gil, to be honest.
Well,
To
the
be
hilarious thing about that is that usually in Starbucks, right? When
Yeah.
I say
Oh.
Jill, they write Jill with a G, and then at the counter I hear Gil.
Do
So
you? Yeah. Oh, right.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. There you go. So here we go. Name problems. Good.
yeah.
Well, my name's Tom. I can't really complain. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
get it wrong, right? That's pretty. But there you go. Okay. So you speak currently. Let's go on to languages here because this is a language
Mhm.
one. You speak. Your native tongue is German. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, Austrian.
Yes, or
Sorry, there you go.
specifically Austrian, Viennese, German. There is a little difference because it's a dialect.
Okay, so there's a difference, but
Yeah.
obviously you can understand
Oh, yeah, I
if it's
speak High
native
German,
German.
if as it's called, yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. English. Obviously, we're talking in fluent English here.
Yeah.
French. You on your profile, on your Twitter profile, which is at Jilly Mouse, by the way, Jilli Mouse,
Mhm.
at Jilly Mouse on Twitter. You say flirting with Italian and Spanish,
Yes.
and you're currently learning Korean, and you've given up on Japanese.
Yes.
Okay. So you did say we did have a little bit of a chat, by the way, before we started the podcast, and Jill was telling me that she had learned Japanese for 12 years.
Well, yeah, but not continuously.
Okay, so over a span of 12 years, right? So can I then start with your Japanese and ask
Sure, sure.
what happened?
I will tell you my Japanese story. Well, so the story is that when I was a teen, so around the time I was 12-ish,
Mhm.
um, manga and anime got really popular in Austria. So before then, I mean, I'd watched cartoons that were anime when while growing up, like Sailor
Yeah.
Moon, etc., that I didn't know were anime until around the time I was 12, where it got really, really big. And so I kind of, head first fell into that since, by now, I am an artist. So I used to draw ever since school days and stuff. So there was a period of time in my life where I only drew manga and fan art and all of that stuff. And so me and a friend of mine, we got really into that. And so through manga and anime, we also got into J drama and J pop and all of that stuff. And then of course, we had to try and learn Japanese. So we kind of did a little bit of dabbling, self-studying with the Genki books and all of that. And then later, I don't know, it's just these kind of phases where it's we tried a course and then we didn't, and then life happened and puberty happens, and I don't know, and then we didn't think about it for a long time. My friend actually went on to study Japanese, so she succeeded in learning Japanese. I
Mhm.
failed. I went on to study illustration with animation, but for example, when I was studying, I studied in Manchester, by the way, in England.
Oh, cool.
um, yeah, I actually took a course in Japanese there again, so I thought
What did you
I'd try
study?
again.
Is it
Hmm?
VFX? Did you study VFX in Manchester?
No, I studied illustration with animation at Manchester Metropolitan University. So like I was
When was
very an
this?
illustration. Huh?
When was
Sorry.
this? I'm sorry to interrupt. When was it?
2008,
Six, eight,
9
2008, 9.
ish.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yep.
9,
Got it.
I think. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm really
Illustration with animation. What would you
really bad
be?
with it. Well, the course was called illustration with animation, but actually when I
Right.
got there, I found out so it was mainly illustration, very kind of traditional illustration, British illustration
Pen
based.
and paper illustration or
Yeah,
digital?
yeah, like traditional media and everything.
Oh,
And the animation teacher, like, I knew more about animation than the animation teacher, so I
wow.
ended up focusing on illustration. But you know, throughout my studies, I realized, yeah, that's not really what I wanted to do,
Mm,
and yeah, I had a hard time. But I wanted to finish. I finished the bachelor because I wanted that piece of paper.
yes.
So I finished my bachelor degree in illustration there, and then I went to Canada to study animation specifically. So I
Okay.
studied 2D animation, so hand-drawn paper on paper
Frame by
animation
frame sort of.
first. Yeah,
Nice.
for a year at Vancouver Film School, and then I did another year of 3D animation after that because you know the job opportunities, etc.
Right.
And yeah, and then I kind of slipped into 3D animation and then video games at first, and then I went into TV, and then I ended up in VFX animation. So that's kind of my
You're saying so many things that I cannot keep up with. Not because you're speaking so quickly, it's just because they're all very, very interesting to me. So I'm trying to like we're talking about Japanese, by the way. That's the current path we're
yeah.
on.
I know I was gonna say it's a language podcast.
But I also want to talk about all the other things that you just mentioned. But okay, so let's do the Japanese one. Let's
Let's
keep
do
going.
Japanese first.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, it's kind of my interest in Japanese
Mm.
never really went away, and it is still there. So that's what I mean. Where when I was studying in Manchester while I was doing my illustration thing, I
Yeah.
also took a course at the other big Mancunian university in Japanese. So I did that for a year there.
What was that
A year
like?
and a half. A year and a half. That was fun. It was fun. But like at the time, I didn't know about immersion learning yet. So I was kind of doing the traditional
So this is like
stuff,
rote learning, just like books.
just like classroom learning.
Someone
Yeah.
saying this is the grammar patterns,
Yeah.
repeat
I
these.
mean, yeah, we
Triggers.
were using Anki. Sorry, we were using Genki, the
Okay.
Genki books that kind of, you know, I would assume for English speakers at least, like the most well-known resource
Uh,
to start
French
learning
tricolor
Japanese.
is the French version. I think is tricolor or tricolor,
Tricolor.
tricolor or something like that.
Really? Oh,
I
I
think
didn't
that's what we
know.
used to learn in school, but I was at school a long time ago.
Okay. Well, at least in German and in English, it's Genki. I think a lot of people
Genki.
have
Okay. That's cool. Yeah.
Genki.
Okay.
Yeah,
Genki. All right.
have heard of that. So we basically just went through the grammar book.
Yes.
It was fun. I mean, I liked taking the classes and stuff, but then again, life happened. Was concentrating on other
Yes.
things, and so I stopped again. And then I went to hustle basically like crazy.
Right.
So
But your interest in Japanese didn't wane. Like it was
it didn't. No, it never went away.
right.
But
Just
yeah,
life.
and then I think I tried one last time at some point when I discovered the RTK, so Heisig's Remembering the Kanji,
Okay. Okay.
which yeah, it's great. It's an amazing book where it's a completely different way of approaching learning the kanji, where you don't try to just kind of aimlessly learn them by heart and memorize them,
Yeah.
but he kind of you use memory tricks essentially. So you use your imagination to make up little stories to remember.
Like
Yeah, and he
memory.
starts. Yeah, so it's the thing is the book is in a very specific order. So he took like the approved 2000 whatever
The
ones that you have to
most
learn
common word in
exactly,
your area.
and the most used ones, and but he teaches them in a very specific order. So he teaches the compounds that make up a lot of later more complex kanji. So you
Okay.
kind of learn in a building block way.
This is more about learning the characters, like
Yes, it's just
right.
kanji. So the thing is also you don't learn, you basically you learn to recognize them. So you don't learn the pronunciation. or like the various pronunciations it can have. You
Right.
don't learn, you only learn one single like definition, so to speak, or meaning in
Okay.
English, keyword. And it's basically separating it from you having to learn so many different kinds of information at the same time. So
Right.
you just, it's really difficult to
No,
explain.
no, no. This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm not looking confused because I'm confused by what you're saying. What you're
Yeah.
saying makes sense. I'm just trying to work out in my head whether that's like a good method or not. Uh,
Yeah. Wait, give me a second.
so
So it's,
mnemonic. Yeah, cool. Mnemonics, like learning mnemonically, your language is a really common way to learn. Like just like
yes,
a funny story in memory with
but
words.
it's actually, so the thing is, I mean, I'm kind of a multi-interest person anyway, so I'm
Yes,
super fascinated by how the brain works as well in
sure.
general, and how we
Yeah,
remember things. And learning by, so it's kind of, it uses mnemonics, yes, but in a way where you have to make up a story, and this is a tried and true proven way of
true.
remembering stuff. Like the
Right.
way I remember, I have a shit memory. Like
Yeah,
I have really crap, especially working memory. Like if you
yeah,
tell me a bunch of things, I will forget them immediately.
for sure. Right.
The way, but I can remember a shopping list that's like 15 items long without writing shit down. Why? Because I use this exact trick that this book is using, where I make up a little story in my head
Yeah.
of the items that I need. So I use my body. For example, say I have to buy spaghetti, milk, salmon.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know, it's a random list.
Yeah.
Spaghetti, milk, salmon, and bread, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I use visualization and like this imagination and pieces of my body to have that. So say the first item is milk. So I imagine there's a huge milk carton that's pouring milk onto my head.
Yeah.
Then I have to buy salmon. So I'm imagining I have like a salmon necklace.
Okay.
And bread, I have two like bags of bread on my shoulders that are like epaulettes, kind of wagging around and stuff. And then I go down the list like that, the items, and I have these places on my body where I
I love
put
this.
the items, and then I go to the shop, and all I have to do is close my eyes and go through, okay, what's on my head, what's on my shoulders, what's around my neck, etc. And then I remember the shopping list.
Okay, so this is amazing for people who have a vivid imagination. And
Yeah.
I love this, by the way. What happens when you run out of places on your body to put these things?
Oh, you stack them on top.
You
So
stack.
it's
Okay.
not, yes.
I
Like, for example, if I have to buy cereal and milk, you can combine that, right? So I have the
Of course.
milk that's pouring out and then into like a cereal thing or
So this would
whatever.
be so obviously, I mean, you have a phone for shopping lists, so this is not.
Yeah.
But for language learning, would you apply this same method for Japanese?
Yeah, I mean, that's what
European,
I was trying to say. So this is a variation of that, where you use your
okay,
body. I don't have to remember the shopping list forever, right? I can
sure.
just dump that later.
Yes.
But it uses a similar thing. So it's basically where it trains you to recognize the kanji and you see a story in it. So when you don't, so that you can then remember what it means. So and it keeps building on top of each other. So for example, you will learn the kanji for I, or yeah. So I mean, this one, right? I'm sorry, like it's not going to be visible in the podcast, but
Okay. Yeah.
right. So that's one of the basic ones that makes up a ton of others, right?
Right.
So here the keyword is I. And so then in another kanji where there's a combination of I and moon that means something, you use the elements in order to make a story that then leads you to the keyword. And that's how you remember them. And the thing is that the quirk of memory is that the more you revise these things and the more you use the kanji in the end, the stories will become unnecessary after a while, because
Yeah.
you will look at the thing and you will recognize it immediately.
Right.
So it's just an aid for when you're like not quite there yet. When you see a kanji, you're like, I don't remember it. Oh, but I can see it has this element, and this element. What was the story for that? Oh, okay, it means this.
So can you
Right?
tell me how this applies now to your Korean? So
It doesn't.
so you haven't used this technique then. This technique didn't work for you. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the thing is, I went through, so third or fourth time I attempted to learn Japanese, the thing that always tripped me up is the kanji, basically, because I wanted to be able to read, because I know from my English journey. So even before I knew anything about immersion learning, or that was a thing that
Yeah.
existed, that's how I reached the high level of English that I have. I read a ton, like a
Okay.
lot.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I love it so much. It makes me want to cry. Okay, so you
Where
learn,
this is going all over the place.
you're learning. No, it doesn't matter. I like it. So
Okay.
we'll pull back onto
All
the
right.
road in a minute, but
Yeah.
this is still relevant. It's still language learning, right? So you're learning English. I mean, the thing is, I talk to European people.
Yeah.
You said at the beginning that everyone is seemingly I've spoken to now across Europe have
Mhm.
had to learn English in some form at school. Um,
Yes.
and a little bit of French usually perhaps, and sometimes German as well. So,
Or
but
Spanish, or it depends
Spanish,
where, right?
depends
Yeah.
where, right? But often at most European schools, from people I've talked to, they've
Yeah.
said well, English has been part of it. Now, whether they liked it or not is up to them. But they
Yes.
see also a lot of content they consumed online. You talk about immersion is in American English or British English or something. There's so much of it.
Yes.
Movies, they're
Yes.
all in. So, but you're talking about reading. So I love this. One person I spoke to said they read Harry Potter in Danish. It was their mother tongue, but
Yes.
they read Harry Potter in Danish, the first three in Danish, and then they read Harry Potter in right. Okay, cool. So how did you get to the point? Now, this is where the how comes into learner journals, and this is why I know a lot of people want to know why, but I want to know how. How did you get to a point where you
Yeah.
could read Harry Potter in Korean?
Yes. So the thing is, I need to gather my thoughts here.
Please, please, please.
Sorry. Yeah. So I have an advantage over a lot of people who try immersion for the same first time,
Okay.
because I know for a fact that it works because of my English journey. So I had to learn English in school, of course, but the thing is, I'm sorry, I'm deriving like into English, but the thing is, my English journey is a success story, right? And the
Yes.
Korean is a story in the making. So
Mm.
I know that it works from my English journey. So of course, yes, I had to learn English in school, the basics and stuff, but I actually sucked like a lot.
This is
Like
great. Okay.
I sucked so much that my
Did you enjoy
parents
it?
sent me at English. What?
Sorry, before you carry on with your parents, did you enjoy English at school?
Yeah, I love English, but I didn't enjoy the class and
Bad
the
teacher?
grammar stuff. Yeah, just the way it was taught, basically.
And the
And
grammar, you don't
just
like grammar.
yeah, just I hate
Okay.
grammar. Just
Okay, great.
so just school in general, right?
Great.
As an artistic soul,
Yes, yes, yes.
did not enjoy the school system very much. So I was so bad that my parents actually sent me on one of those, language camp things for
Okay,
like a week or two
cool.
to Malta, of all places. I don't know how that
Interesting
happened,
choice.
but I know,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And that was very unsuccessful because I ended up just speaking French the
What
entire
was
time.
the camp? What
Well,
did that
because
was that supposed to be immersion?
well, the thing is, because I don't know if you know this, but French people, it's a little bit of a cliche, but they're a little bit notorious for being terrible at English.
Okay.
So I ended up being in a language camp with a whole bunch of English learners that were all French. So all I did was
We'll
speak
speak
French the
French.
entire time.
That's a shame. That's a shame. Okay.
So yeah, but so that didn't do anything. But the thing is, again, somewhere in my teens, there was several things that kind of played into my success story with English. But so one of them was that I got sick of having to wait for the Harry Potter translations, because
Oh,
I'm a millennial. I grew up with Harry Potter. I'm a classic Potterhead.
okay.
When I was 11 years old, that's when the first Harry Potter book came out in German. So Harry Potter is also 11 in the first book. So I literally grew up with Harry Potter.
Cool. Okay.
So around book number 4-ish, I was like, I just want to read them when you come. I don't have to wait
You
for
don't wait.
translations.
I was like with
Exactly.
Lord of the Rings. Yep. Okay.
I have to say that at that time, my English level was already like intermediate-ish.
Okay.
So I had an easier time to jump into consuming everything in English as much as I possibly could. And I did that like just on my own without knowing what immersion was, right? And so I reread the Harry Potter books. By that time, I had read the Harry Potter books each probably 10 times
Mhm.
and listened to the audio in German and listened to the audiobook so many times that I
Yes.
knew the story inside out already. This, by the way, is a really good immersion trick, and the reason why I still use Harry Potter for any new language I want to learn, because
Yeah.
I know the story. Like, I know it like the back of my hand. That is a huge comprehension boost. So even if I don't understand like 3 sentences in a row, I just need to understand like 2 words in the next sentence, and I know where we are in the story.
Okay. I need to take you back, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry to keep drilling you on this one, but
Yeah.
I need to know the
How
how,
and
and
the how.
because actually skipped a bit, and I
Yeah.
love the story still, but you skipped a bit.
Yeah.
So you said at that point I was at intermediate.
Yeah, that's so the thing
How?
is with the because the English thing was so long ago, right? Like I had the English in school. So it's just I ended up just having enough exposure because there's so much American
Right.
media and all of that stuff, right? But I applied I guess the point of that long story I was trying to make
Yeah.
was that once I started reading in English exclusively and watching everything in English with English subtitles, that is when my skills skyrocketed
But
within a very, very short period of time.
specifically, you were watching things you enjoyed.
Exactly. So it's
So
it's
it's
uh
finding
it's a
content.
compelling, comprehensible input, right?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So the thing with the Korean, so now I'm going to go back to the
Okay.
how to
Please.
get there from the beginner stage,
Yes.
right? So it was a bit more vague for me with English, of course, because I had the whole like school curriculum and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So in Korean, I completely self-studied, and I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. Like it's hard. And also, I'm at a point now. So I'm about 15 months in,
Okay.
around 15 months of studying Korean.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand everything in like Harry Potter. Like I can't, if this was a new story that I didn't know at all. So like original content or content that I have no familiarity with at
Yes.
all is still very, very difficult for me to comprehend. Like I'm very slow. I have to look up a ton of words, and I might not even get the whole sentence and stuff. So I'm not quite at that point yet, that magic point where you reach this kind of medium, intermediate, whatever level, that where you're able to consume a lot more content. I'm just waiting for that. That's like that's where the magic happens, right? Where you can just
Just tip over.
because then it's just easier to just, so to get there, it's hard. So I'm at like 15 months and I'm not quite there yet. Harry Potter for me is amazing because I know the story so well. So how I got there. So the very beginning, I so normally I wouldn't say I were to learn Italian, I would never look at a grammar book, right?
Right.
Especially because I speak French. I simply don't need it. I would just start, my comprehension in Italian is already kind of like upper beginner without me even trying. So I would just start
Just the
reading and
similarities in Latin.
immersing. Exactly. I wouldn't even look at it. Korean, however, is so far removed from any of the languages I already speak that I had to look at the grammar. But because, and similar to Japanese, I have the same
Yeah.
thing. Like I find it so fascinating
Yeah.
because it's so different that it's fun for me to look at the grammar.
Yeah.
So
That's
what I
weird.
did,
Okay.
yeah. So what I did in the beginning is I went through the Talk to Me in Korean series,
Okay. I wanna
the grammar series. The books are excellent. The website is excellent as well. They have them for free, the PDFs. Like you don't even need to buy the books
Okay.
if you don't want to spend money on it. They're amazing. So Talk to Me in Korean is a great resource for lots and lots of stuff. And so I just started going through the grammar books just to get kind of my basic comprehension level up a little bit, because at the beginning you don't understand anything, right? It's all gibberish.
100%.
Uh,
Yeah. Are
yeah.
you using any
So
flashcards or any apps or anything to like Duolingo to like boost,
yes,
bolster your
yes. I mean, the thing is,
using?
I'm the ultimate chaotic, unstructured language learner. I kind of
Okay.
just go with the flow and do what feels right and
It
do what.
works.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, the Talk to Me in Korean is the most kind
Cool.
of basic, obvious place to start. And then around that time, I mean, I'm kind of jumping all over the place with like, the stories you gave me anyway, but um,
So
like,
sorry, I'm going to ask you specifics now. So
yeah.
um sticking with Korean and staying on apps, which apps do you use? Or have you used?
So yeah, so
You mentioned Anki.
yeah, I mean the thing is we're jumping all over the place. Like this was super structured in my notes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Anyway, no,
Yep.
it's cool. Yeah, I don't know how you want me to tell the story. So the thing is, so I chose to start learning Korean
Uh-huh.
because I back in the day when I was really into Japanese, I was also really into K-pop and K-drama,
Helps.
but fell off of that bandwagon because life. And then recently, my friend that I used to be really into that stuff with got back into it and kind of accidentally dragged me with her,
Oh, okay.
right, into the fandom hole. So that's why I'm learning Korean essentially. So K-pop and
Oh,
K-drama got me into it, right? Around that time, I was also discovering for the first time what immersion learning is, and Stephen Krashen and second language acquisition hypothesis and all of that stuff.
okay.
I was getting really into how to actually learn languages, and I realized, holy shit, that's how I learned English, like how I
And
got
you
so
go,
good at English at least.
sure.
And so I was already looking for another language to learn anyway, to try this properly from the start this
Yeah.
time. And so it kind of coincided. That's why I started with Korean, right? And so because I was really into this whole immersion community,
Hmm.
I also, of course, found refold.la, which has a whole outline of how to start learning a language with the immersion approach,
Okay.
and read through all of that. And through them, I found Anki, the SRS
Yep.
apps, which I hate, by the way. I really despise Anki. But
Do
so
explain.
yeah, I was just backtracking a little because I'm
Oh,
trying to kind of, in order, kind of explain
alrighty.
how I got to these things.
Sure.
But it's through refold.la and Matt versus Japan, and it was a YouTube channel, right? Like that's kind of how I stumbled into this whole immersion language learning community.
Okay.
And so I kind of cherry pick from different methods what seems like I would enjoy doing. I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan of like picking, your own way and picking out the stuff that works for you. I did start with Anki. There are some really good pre-made decks for Korean as well. And the refill community, by the way, is amazing. So I recommend to anybody who
Hmm.
really, any language, they have a ton of different languages, to check out refill.la and also join the refill Discord servers for the language of their choice,
Yeah.
because they usually have like community documents with tons of resources, and there's tons of amazing, lovely language learners in there that will, give you tips and resources and where to start and what to do when this and all that. Like, I love them. They're amazing. And so through that, I found the some kind of basic Anki decks that have like I used my first 500 Korean words
Uh-huh.
from Talk to Me in Korean as well. The book, I did actually purchase the book because I like having physical books, but there's an Anki deck for that. So I learned my first vocabulary with that. At the same time, I was looking through the grammar books. I did not do any of the exercises though, because fuck that. I just use grammar, reading about grammar in order to aid my comprehension.
Okay.
At the same time, I was continuing to watch K-drama with English subtitles though, because of course, and listen to a lot of K-pop, and I tried listening to some podcasts and things. There is, again, Talk to Me in Korean has some amazing series. One is called the Iyagi. It's available on Spotify as well. The Iyagi podcast, which is kind of short, they pick like a theme to talk about entirely in Korean. So it's 100% Korean, but
Mhm.
it's simpler language. In the beginning, when I listened to those, I didn't understand anything like
Mm.
at all, but I would still listen because it's important to get used to how the language sounds,
Yeah.
right? And get your brain used to the flow of the language and all of that. And you'll have an easier time later when you start recognizing vocabulary to parse the words. So in parsing the words, for those who don't know what that means, is just in a sentence, even when we speak English, the sounds flow together. And if you don't know the language, you do not know where one word starts and
The other one is.
or one word ends and the other starts, right?
Yeah.
So parsing the language is learning to recognize where the words are essentially while listening to it. So even not understanding anything, I would listen to a lot of Korean as well and watch a lot of Korean and stuff. I would listen to the, there's the the Talk to Me in Korean Grammar. They also have a podcast where they go through the lessons on Spotify as well. I love them because they're really funny as well. They're very entertaining. So I kind of did that, did a lot of grammar reading in the beginning because I just didn't understand all that much. But I was trying always to push and to look for content that I could start properly immersing in, specifically reading and watching YouTube and stuff. So I was just kind of trying to find little bits here and there that were comprehensible to me. And in the beginning, it was very, very hard because, of course, as a beginner, the stuff that's really interesting is out of your reach completely.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So that definitely was a hard time. And I actually, around the 5-month mark or so, I was super frustrated with myself as well, because I was like, I feel like I should be further than I am, like this kind of like, I don't understand as much as I should, and like I still can't. I had this like phase of super anger at myself.
Okay.
That where it's just,
I think that's the frustration a lot of language learners
oh God,
have.
in the beginning,
Sure.
it's
I don't know at most stages, because you get people who hit walls like this and think, oh, I just can't get it. Why don't I? I'm not.
Yeah.
And then you get the plateaus where.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on an intermediate plateau at the moment, but the thing is, that's why I'm saying I have this huge advantage because I know that it works. I've already experienced it, right?
Yeah.
With English. I mean, there's English speakers when I was studying in Manchester, there's native English speakers who told me that I use words they've never even heard of because my vocabulary is quite big because I read so much, right? It comes just from consuming a ton and a ton and a ton of content in English. Like my entire life is in English. My English is better than my German. I'm not even kidding.
Right.
Yeah. So
how much
I know it.
Sorry, how much time do you spend on Korean now? You say immersion. How much time do you spend on Korean now?
Well, now the thing is, in the beginning it was very hard because, of course, you don't understand anything. So I had to take time to study. I was lucky because I started learning smack dab in the middle of one of the Corona lockdowns here in Vienna.
Right.
So I had time to spend a couple of hours on going through the grammar books. Now, thankfully, because I'm kind of lower intermediate-ish, I can actually, I found the audiobooks, Harry Potter audiobooks in Korean.
Oh.
Yes, and on this app called, what is it called? Storytel, actually.
Storytel.
So, Storytel, with one L, Storytel.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually I don't think it's not a Korean app, it's just a normal app, but they are the only ones who have the license for the Harry Potter Korean books, audiobooks, and you can only access those with a VPN. So if you have a VPN, you set it to Korea, then you can access that. And the cool thing about Storytel that I actually like, normally I'm not a fan of subscriptions, but this one is a subscription-based one, which means like I don't have to buy the audiobooks individually. I can just listen to whatever.
Hold the whole. Cool.
And there's a lot of Korean audiobooks on there, also for like children's books or children's shows and all of that stuff. So
is Storytel specifically Korean?
No, Storytel I don't think is a Korean app. I think it's just an international app, but it has Korean. It has Korean content on it. Yeah, there is specifically Korean. There is Willa audiobooks. I don't even know how I can't spell it to you because it's in Hangul. But Willa audiobooks is a specifically Korean one, but you have to buy the audiobooks. Anyway, but yeah, so I managed to get at least an hour, but it's not rare that I get in 3 to 4 hours of immersion, mostly listening, passive listening, because now I'm at a point where there is certain content that I can listen to that is enjoyable to me because I understand enough. So I can just listen to it while I do something else. So now, thankfully, I am so grateful because I'm out of this frustration hole of the beginning where like it's so hard to even rack up any significant amount of time, immersion time, because just don't understand.
No,
Like,
no, I understand. Yeah, no,
I just
yeah,
don't understand.
yeah.
So yeah, so now it's quite easy to find time to listen to stuff. I mean, my job is I don't have to write or form words or do anything with language in that sense anyway, where I have to,
So you don't
where I
actively
can't.
you don't have to, yeah, I get it.
Exactly. So the language part of my brain is freed up
Yes, to
for,
listen and input and whatever. Yeah, that's great.
exactly. So now it's thankfully it's easier for me. So I listen to a lot of so the audiobooks now that like I love, podcasts
Yeah.
that I can find.
I think actually that's how
Yeah.
I found you on Twitter. I think one of the polyglots I've spoken to before mentioned something about how important do we find passive listening or active listening to our language learning, and I think
Yes.
we were both like it's important, or definitely
Yeah.
you said like it's very
Yeah.
important. I really vouch for this, and
Yeah.
I like this. I thought this is correct.
Yeah.
Um, so you're obviously a big fan of passive and active listening. Do you ever do when I'm coming to active listening, when you're
Yeah.
doing your work, your VFX work, and you've got your Korean shows on,
Mm.
you're sort of, I guess, half listening because you're
Yeah. I mean,
process and
yeah. I
do you
mean,
ever,
honestly, the thing is, I have a difficult time telling the difference between what is considered passive and what is considered active listening,
yeah.
because like it's not like I'm not actively trying to understand it while I'm
Well,
doing something else.
can I
Yeah.
define what I mean by my question? I
Okay.
understand that
Yes.
there are some like
Yes,
I don't,
please.
there's some chats you can discuss active, what's active, what's passive.
Yeah.
For the purpose of the question, what I mean is
Yeah.
passive would be in regards to the question would be walking, having a walk with your dog with it on, and you're
Hmm.
trying to do what you said earlier, just kind of getting the ebbs and flows of the language, passing the language, etc. I'm trying to understand. You're not sitting down, concentrating, trying to form the sentence, thinking, okay, what was that? What did he say again? What did he say?
Mm.
It's just you're going about your day, doing your VFX work whilst listening in the background. I do it often with English podcast, even just doing the washing up or
Mm.
whatever, it's editing something I don't need words for, and just
Hmm.
listening to this in the back. I'm not necessarily actively listening what they're saying. I might click into it occasionally.
Mm.
My brain might go, oh, what did you say? Oh, you're
Yeah.
talking about politics. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Okay, now I'm back off again, and it's just noise. And then
Uh-huh.
active for me would be
Yeah.
I have a piece of pen and a paper and some
Yeah.
paper, and I am looking, watching, or listening intently to what you're
Okay.
saying. I stop it, pause it, record the sentence, look up words. I'm
Hmm.
doing stuff
Okay.
directly. That would be my definition.
Yeah. I hardly do any active
Active.
listening then in
Okay.
that sense.
And
So,
that's okay.
well, the thing is, again, for me, it's very difficult to draw the line because I am very, very capable of like very intensely concentrating on what's being said
Yes.
while drawing. Because for me, or like when
Okay.
I'm walking, like you said, I don't know about you, but like I'm the main thing that I'm doing at that point is listening, and the
Yes.
walking is secondary. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm really concentrating, and I'll have my phone out sometimes. And the app that I use is the Naver English Dictionary. It's very good for single words. So sometimes I try when a word comes up a bunch of times, say in a podcast, and normally I would try and ignore that and just kind of guess by context. But then occasionally a word will come up. Excuse me. A word will come up a bunch of times, and I'll be like super curious, and I'll try and spell it out and look it up.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, I go in and out of that. So
That's
I
cool.
don't, yeah, I don't have like a strict kind of,
There's a gray area of active and passive. Then.
exactly. I don't have a strict border of between
Active.
active and passive listening. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Even when I work, because when I catch an interesting word, I will like take a minute to try and look it
I
up.
do it too. I totally
Yeah.
do it too. If someone repeats a word and I think they've said that a
Yeah.
bunch of times, I'm not quite sure what it
Yeah.
means. I'll always try and look
Yeah.
it up or ask and say, what does this? They keep saying
Yeah.
this word, da da da. What is that? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, that means investment. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So actually, okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So, big fan of passive listening, and you said you were listening to various podcasts and stuff. What do you listen to stuff within your industry, VFX stuff, or
No, that's beyond my reach for now,
Interesting.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
The thing is, I mean, listening at the moment is my main source of immersion,
Yep.
apart from watching K-dramas, but I kind of don't count that because I watch them with English subtitles. I'm not, I can't.
That's cheating. Okay, yeah, fine.
The thing is, I think I think it's because I'm in the film industry,
Uh-huh.
and I really appreciate all aspects of filmmaking, and I really cannot stand it when I don't understand subtext and when I don't understand
Sure.
what exactly is going on.
Okay.
So I have zero tolerance of ambiguity when it comes to watching K-drama. I have to watch it with English subtitles.
Got it.
I
Okay.
do use Language Reactor though, which is a browser extension where when Korean subtitles are available, you can have both the English and the Korean subtitles, and you can like blur out the
Is this
English
for Netflix?
subtitles. Yeah, it's for
Yeah.
Netflix and it's for YouTube as well.
Oh, okay.
So it's a Chrome extension.
Chrome extension, yeah.
Language Reactor, it's called. Yeah, it's
Okay.
quite good. Um, so listening is my main thing because I have to do other stuff, right? But that means that my reading fell behind. My reading
Right.
is speed is very slow.
Do you
Um,
prefer reading because I'm sorry, we're gonna go back to reading
yeah,
now.
no, yes,
Um,
please.
do you prefer reading? I've recently taken up reading as well, more in Mandarin, just because a lot of people, such as yourself, have said reading has really helped me, and I
Mm,
thought, okay, because I love reading anyway in English, but I thought maybe I
yeah,
could transfer that. I just can't find the materials in Mandarin.
yeah,
I kind of
yeah,
really like to read.
yeah.
So how do
That's
you?
that's a difficulty. So
Yeah.
at the moment, I concentrate mainly on translated material and material for children occasionally here and there if I find something fun.
Oh,
But
no.
translated material for two reasons. One, I will read things that I have previously read or am very familiar with in English already. So because it boosts my comprehension significantly and I don't get as frustrated with all the words that I don't know because
Mhm.
I can keep up with the story even if I don't understand like whole sentences in there.
Right.
So it keeps me going. It's the extensive reading part, right? Like it keeps me going, reading a lot, and I
Yeah.
can guess a lot more meaning of words and sentences because I have a familiarity with the story already. So
Okay.
that's the main reason why I use a lot of translated material for now. So Harry Potter, for example, Howl's Moving Castle is another one that I have.
You Ghibli, yeah, lovely.
Yeah, I found a graded reader of The Secret Garden.
Okay.
Uh, this is great because it's very simple languages, so it's for like middle school kids.
Who makes that one? Who right
Uh,
company? Do we know?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I got this from somebody in the Discord server. Actually, she
Okay.
wasn't using them anymore.
Oh, cool.
Um, but it's I can't, I don't output yet, so I can't say it properly.
I
But it's I think it's a series of 초등 학생을 위한
oh,
세계 명작. So it's like a masterpieces of literature for middle schoolers
okay. I mean,
that so they're kind of shortened and they have illustrations and stuff. So I
nice.
use material like that mainly because it boosts my comprehension a lot and because I'm interested in it. I love Harry Potter. I can read Harry Potter 1,000 times and I don't get bored of it.
Yeah, yeah,
So that is one trick. So and even like nowadays on Netflix, it's amazing. Like there's so many available languages
yeah,
for all the stuff, like or Disney Plus, all the Marvel stuff, and the like a lot of the traditional, the classic animated movies and stuff, which I love. Of course, I'm an animator.
yeah,
They have a Korean dub, so I
yeah, yeah,
will watch stuff that I have watched before in Korean dub, and so like things that I know I find interesting, things that I know that I like, right?
yeah.
And then like, so yeah, so those are the two reasons. One, it boosts my comprehension. Two, I already know that I like the material because I like it in my
How
native
many times
language
will
or
you
in English.
how many time will you watch something in a dub? Just once?
Um, it
Or
depends. So it really depends. So for example, like one of the things that's recommended, for example, by Refold, the Refold method as well, is that watch a K drama. You can watch something, maybe with English subtitles, and then watch it again without, or just
yeah,
with Korean subs. I can't do that. I lose interest.
because you already
But
yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of like
You
meh.
already know what
And I also, again, my or even if I really really love it, like there's a couple of K drama I've watched like several times. Like I'm too much into the story. Like I'll want to understand again, so that I can't. But with dub stuff, like Disney films, for example, that I've watched a million times already anyway, because I love animation. I'm a big animation nerd, so I can
yeah,
geek out about the animation. I would watch that occasionally when I feel like it anyway, even in English. So instead of watching it in English, like, you know, The Little Mermaid for the 500th time in English, I will
Yeah.
watch it in Korean.
Right, right,
And
right, right.
so,
And you can sit
you
there
know,
through that,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not the story that's keeping you enthralled, it's
I
the
mean, but the thing is, I know the story, right?
that's what I mean. So you're not kind of watching it for the because you know what happens.
I'm
It's
watching it for pure enjoyment of, yeah, but I love it's just it's one of those comfort things for me as well. Like I have no problem rewatching media a lot. I know there's
yeah,
people who are like kind of, you know, they need new material. It's
yeah,
definitely a little bit more difficult. But it might be worth trying to reread or rewatch at least one, like occasionally something that you found really amazing in English or something. Then
right, right,
like
right.
try and watch it in your target language, and then, you know, like you can find interest, because when I watch it in Korean, the interest for me is not even in the story and in the animation, although I do like fall back into the story usually, but
Sure.
it's because like, how does this sound in Korean, and what voice actors did they choose, and where's the intonation, and
Yeah,
like are they using an idiom here or not, and like try and find the words, like try and find the words that you understand, or can I understand this entire sentence, or
yeah.
you know, all of that kind of stuff. So you make a
I found
game out
with,
of it.
like, Disney dubs, I found that the language dubs are usually vocally quite similar to the American or the English.
They try, yeah, they
Try and
try,
get it
yeah.
close, right? I know the
The
language
thing
is
is, though, Korean sounds so different though,
right.
that, and I would assume the same is true for Mandarin, right? or
Yeah.
or any
They
form of
still get
Chinese.
like Thanos,
It's
he's still kinda like, you know what I mean? He's
Oh, okay, okay. They try to go with the, yeah.
they
So they
try and
do
do the
try to go
tone
with the,
similar,
yeah.
yeah.
But there's, I mean, there's some dubs that are very different. So the Refold Korean Discord server again. So one of them, somebody has been hosting like impromptu watch parties, where
Mhm.
we all watch something together of, funnily enough, the Korean dub of the Harry Potter movies. They're
Okay,
not that easy to get, so I don't
right.
have them, but so we watch them all together, and like some of the voice actor choices are a little bit questionable,
Yeah.
where you're like, hmm. But that's the thing, you find the fun in those things, right?
Yeah, no, 100.
So
I'm
yeah.
gonna ask you a question. So this is on the list. One
Yeah.
of these questions, and it's always an interesting one for me. So if time and it's if time and money
Mm.
were not an issue for you, so life
Yeah.
handled itself, and you got a massive VFX deal, and the contract has settled you for money for the next few years, right?
Excellent.
And you thought, I'm going to learn, let's say, a net new language.
A
Uh,
new language.
yeah, or
Yeah.
because if you've already got a foundation, then this question won't work. But
Mm.
Greek, like, let's pick Greek. You're going to learn Greek for whatever reason, and time and money not a problem. How would you do it? How would you design the perfect course to, let's say, fluency, conversational?
Mm. Good question. Well, if I were to pick a new language, honestly, I wouldn't do much different than I do now, except I would be able to spend more time on it. And then once I reach the level where I'm kind of at in Korean now, which is sort of lower intermediate-ish to intermediate-ish, it's a bit difficult to define, right?
Sure.
I would go to Greece.
Okay.
uh, I would try and go, because I mean, I know, like, you know, being in the country where the language is spoken is not always necessarily the ideal situation, or it does not guarantee that you will acquire the language, not at all. Especially in the beginning, it can actually be detrimental because you're just super overwhelmed with stuff,
Right.
and like for me personally, I think the beginning stages are better to kind of do on your own anyway. Like,
Mm,
you know, kind of get the basics down first and study the basic vocabulary with an SRS and like the basic grammar structure or whatever.
yeah.
But once I kind of reach a point where like I'm starting to understand stuff, I would go there, because you're surrounded by it constantly, and I would attempt to speak as little English as possible. I'll just
Right.
pretend I can't speak English.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, thankfully, I have other languages, so I can just
Pull
like,
back
you
on
know,
it.
answer in like French or German and be like, sorry, I don't speak.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
Okay.
would go there. Yeah, I would go there and try and make Greek friends and try and start talking, and maybe take classes there for shits and giggles. Although I don't think they're that how do you say, efficient, but it's fun, you know, like it's the to get the element
Exposure.
of, to get exposure, to get the element of communication back, and like, you know, explore the country, try and read everything everywhere, and that kind of stuff.
You've mentioned listening. You've done a lot of listening, as you say, big fan of passive listening and
Yeah.
some active listening, or I don't
A
know how
mixture of
mixture of the
both.
two,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just
Um,
listening.
It's listening in general, okay, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of input. You get input all the time.
Yeah.
Very much like a child, because they can't, you know,
Mm,
as they're born, it's all input
absolutely.
they can speak.
Yeah.
But you've also mentioned your writing, and you've mentioned flashcards, and again, that's reading now, but you haven't mentioned speaking.
Yes, I'm not outputting yet.
Yeah. So do you not have a teacher? How are you gonna?
Yeah, so the thing is, I'm a huge fan of the whole like second language acquisition hypothesis by Stephen Krashen, and one of the things is one of the kind of main principles, I guess, is output late. So don't worry about output. So output is anything like writing and
Yeah.
speaking. The only things that I write is when I kind of make notes on. So first of all, I wanted to learn Hangul. I wanted to learn the writing system. So I did practice writing and stuff, and you know, taking notes and things is no problem now. But I don't write diary or anything like that. I don't try and construct lots of sentences. I mean, here and there I'm starting to, but I've basically not worried about speaking or writing at all, at all. So I am kind of, the principle is basically you try and raise your comprehension as high as possible before you start outputting. And the thing is, and I think this is very true, the language will burst out of you anyway. It will start bursting out of you. I have moments where I you know, get scared by something and I don't say what the fuck anymore. I just go like, which is the Korean way of saying it, you know, when you adopt the onomatopoeia and things like that. And I'll catch myself thinking like, 눈치가 없잖아, where it's like, this guy doesn't have a, like, nunchi is this very great concept in Korean where it's kind of social awareness of the subtext in the situation that's going on, and somebody who has no nunchi basically has no emotional intelligence, where they can't read the room. And it's just, this is one of the short sayings in Korean. So it starts bursting out of you anyway. I do want to, one of my like kind of short-term goals, I guess, in the sense, is within the next year, I do want to start practice outputting as well. So especially speaking.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm kind of slowly getting to a point where the sentences come naturally, because the whole point of this is like, when you understand what you're reading and what you're listening to, once you start wanting to produce the language, the only thing that you need to practice is activating your passive vocabulary. So the, you know, kind of reaching for that vocabulary to be able to actually say it. But the thing is, your sentence structures, and I'm starting to notice this myself when I try and say something where I have conversations in my head with myself, I automatically pick like sentence, like grammar structures and things that, like, I don't have to, it's just, it comes naturally. It almost comes instinctively.
Okay.
Like you learn your native language, right? You just start kind of putting stuff together that feels like it goes together. And very often I will not be able to say something, or I'll say something in my head and I know the sentence is wrong because it doesn't feel right.
Sure.
So I have, right? So it starts happening anyway. And so I'm basically concentrating on kind of getting my comprehension up really high, because then I will only have to concentrate on fixing my horrendous foreigner accent.
Okay. Yeah.
And instead of having to concentrate at the same time on learning what the words mean, how the sentence structure goes, composing a sentence and speaking it, that's too much at the same time. So basically, to me, what immersion is just splitting stuff up. So you learn to understand first, and then with the understanding will come production automatically anyway. Because if you read an idiom or a sentence so many times, or heard it so many times, you will know how to say it. You might have a horrible accent, but you will say it correctly without ever having practiced it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So, but being able to fluently speak, of course, does still take practice. So one of the things that I do want to do, hopefully, I want to try out italki. I have heard good things about that. And I'm not a huge fan of the more like language exchangey things, because we end up just speaking English most of the time anyway. Like, it's really hard for me.
Hit and miss as well with weirdos, but
super hit and miss. Yeah, especially as as a woman,
Sure.
unfortunately. So italki, I mean, they're very affordable kind of way to just get a native speaker who just has to talk to you, basically.
Yeah, yeah. A lot
You
of
pay.
as well, because they can explain if you have any grammar issues,
Yeah,
they can also explain where you go.
exactly.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and there's a mixture of community teachers that aren't, licensed teachers or anything, and like
Right.
teachers, so you can choose. So I do want to start outputting within the next year, more like practicing as well, and like actually practicing
When are you
my
looking to do that? So is it you said within the next year, what is it?
Yeah, that's the thing. I have very vague goals. It's just kind of will depend on how I feel, if I
Mm,
feel good about it or not.
okay.
But seeing as the language is starting to kind of burst out of me anyway, I think
Yeah.
I'll be ready soon to like wanna try and actually talk. At the moment, I'm just like
Would you
super embarrassed.
what's your goal? Don't be embarrassed. What's your goal for Korean?
Well, I mean, for now, I guess functional fluency would be good. So functional fluency to the point that would be great because then I can also make the monolingual dictionary transition where I can look words up in the language
Yeah.
itself, right? Where I don't have to go to translations anymore,
Okay.
because that's like, oh, like, yeah, that's the kind of the point where the real magic happens, when I can like start reading more fluently, start reading content that is made for native speakers, that grown up native speakers, that interests me, where I can follow my interests. There's so
Mm,
much content on YouTube and vlogs and things in Korean that I can't quite understand yet, and
yeah.
like I'm still a bit slow at deciphering the Hangul. Like it takes considerable effort for me to read a short sentence,
Right.
like to even decipher, because I've been mainly listening, so my reading speed is very slow. So I just want to get to the functional fluency, and then I think when I'm there, I can probably start learning another language, because then it just becomes a matter of just keeping on consuming stuff,
Yeah,
right?
as much as possible.
That's the easy part. That's where it becomes like truly fun, because you get to explore all the books in Korean that have never been translated, or whatever, Korean history and culture, food vlogs. I don't know, whatever I
Yeah.
want to do.
So
Wherever it leads me.
I'm going to reiterate now because we're pushing towards the hour, and I do want to talk about
Yes,
illustrations. So
yes,
you, to put it in a short form, essentially what you're saying is immersion is a huge thing. Uh,
huge.
for you, passive and active listening is a big thing, or the
Mhm.
in the gray area in between.
Yeah,
Reading is huge for you as well, but you have to
yeah,
get up to a point where you build a foundation in order to be able to understand enough to enjoy the content that you sought out.
yes.
And you get there by using things like Anki, like SRS systems, and doing the more rote, the sort of traditional learning methods, buying a grammar book and trying to better, go through it and try and understand.
Yeah, but I don't do any of the exercise. That's the thing.
No,
So
you said, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess there's a bunch of things. I mean, I could talk about this for another hour. Like, there's
I know,
so
yeah.
many things that I do where, like, with the reading as well, there's a difference between just trying to read and not looking anything up, or only looking stuff up occasionally. So that's kind of more the like free flow type of thing, or intensive reading where I will really be like looking up
Word for
every
word,
word.
yeah.
Yeah, I do that with song lyrics as well. I have an entire book where I like analyze the grammar and K-pop lyrics, or what.
I don't know. See, your personality type, I would assume, and this is a big assumption, but I would assume that you wouldn't be able to do that like, so easily. And like, for example, if I gave you a book, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever you
Yeah.
enjoy, Harry Potter. Well, you've read that before, so that's cheating. But
Yeah.
The Witcher, let's say The Witcher, right? I
Okay.
did Witcher book all in Korean, right?
Mhm.
Now, first of all, it's a fantasy book, so there's going to be words in there that like dryad. How are you gonna? What the hell in Korean? You've never
Probably
seen.
Konglish.
Yeah, it's never going to be in the 2000 most commonly used words, a gnome
Yeah.
or something, or dwarf. But so you open it up and the first word is the dwarves of Narahad or whatever it is, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, I've never seen any of these words apart from of, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you go, word one, right? What does word one mean? And because for me, I'd look at it and go, oh, look at the size of the book.
Yeah.
Huge. Like, because you said to me at the beginning, you said when you're chunking, you've got this view.
Yeah, but the thing is though, like, I think too many people have this, especially in the beginning, get stuck on having to finish a book. You don't
Okay.
have to finish a book. You can read a couple of sentences and then you're like, oh, this is too hard for me. I'm gonna leave this for later. Like,
Mm.
just drop it, do something else. Or like the first Harry Potter book, before I found the audiobooks, because for some reason listening and reading at the same time actually is amazing, like boosts my
Oh,
comprehension even more. Yeah. It took me, I think I spent 3 months on like the first 4 chapters. And not that I was doing like reading it every day or whatever, just here or there, occasionally, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to get so hung up on wanting to finish the whole book. Like, just read a little bit. If it's
Yeah.
too much for you, then leave it for later. I bought, I think in my first month, I bought so I bought the Harry Potter book and Howl's Moving Castle, and I think actually even I bought the Hunger Games as well, a Korean translation of the Hunger Games, and a bunch of Korean books that I knew I had no chance in hell of being able to read yet. I'm a
Yeah.
huge book fanatic though, so I
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
buying spree. And so, but now I like open Howl's Moving Castle and I can actually start understanding some stuff. And then I'm like, oh, it's still a little too hard for me. I close it again and leave it. I do something else. I come back to it a couple months later, right? So,
But you're
you
never
know,
gonna, even like a native person, a
mhm,
native Korean will read chapter 1 of Harry Potter, right? And
yeah.
there'll be some words even they probably don't, or they'll think, oh, well, I'll skip over that. Maybe it's too academic for them, or whatever it is. Maybe not in Harry Potter. But
Mm,
when you read it, you
yeah.
understand a percentage of it, not all of it.
Yeah.
But you know what's happening in the story anyway, so you kind of
Yeah,
feel,
but don't we do that in English as well? Like say you have to,
yeah,
like you said, academic, if you have to read yourself into a subject because of whatever, say you have a legal problem and you need to kind of read
right,
into the subject matter,
yeah,
you'll understand, let's say, like, I mean, good understanding will be pretty high usually depending on if it's legalese or not.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, let's say 90% or 80 to 90%, and then the rest you'll be looking up definitions, right, in English
No, I
as
don't.
well.
100%.
So,
But if you're learning a language, though, it's slightly different because I think it's the reverse. In my
mm,
experience, it's the reverse. When you come into a book, you don't understand 80%. You understand
yeah, it's true.
20%,
Yeah.
and you're looking up 80%. So you may read chapter 1. When you read Harry Potter
But
in
that's
Korean,
too much. See, that's the thing. That's where you have to find easier material because,
right,
like, if you literally don't understand 80%, that's too high incomprehensibility
mhm,
factor. Like, you have, because it shouldn't be torture, right?
right.
Like, yeah, I wanted to read Harry Potter in month 2, but it took me, like, okay, so this is a really good book, by the way. Short stories in
Oh,
Korean by Ollie Richards. He has a
okay.
great YouTube channel as well. You must know
I've
Ollie
heard of, yeah,
Richards,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So some people don't like this because it's baby language. It is baby language. But
Mhm,
when I think it was about 2 or 3 months in, 2 months probably, 2 months into my language journey, and I was super impatient to start reading, but I no comprehension whatsoever.
mm,
This was comprehensible to me,
right.
and that made it fun, and it's fun little stories, they have little twists in there and stuff. And the very first time that I opened this book, okay, short stories in Korean by Ollie Richard, this to me now is super easy. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
the first story is so easy. It took me 45 minutes to read the first page and a half.
Okay, there you go. Right, cool, cool,
Okay,
cool. Yeah, 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 yeah,
but
yeah.
it was fun because I almost started crying when I first read, like, when I made my way through the first paragraph, because I was like, I can understand this. I can actually read it, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah,
So you have to find those wins for you, and
yeah, yeah.
if it's too much, if it's torture, then put it down. You're not ready yet. Find
Mhm.
something that's comprehensible for you. Just wait a couple of months longer, keep doing what you're doing, and then come back to it, and you will be surprised how much more you understand. It might still be too hard for you, but you will understand more than you did the first time.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Okay,
yeah.
amazing. So what I think we're gonna have to do with this one,
Mhm.
Jill, and I think this is amazing. I think we could still talk about this for a long, long time, is
Probably.
probably do part 2.
Okay.
Yeah? Which,
Excellent.
yeah, that'd be super cool. So, because also I do want to tackle your, but I do want to quickly, mind you,
Yes.
about
Okay, I'll try.
illustrations. So, Jill is also a very is an amazing artist, and if
Oh,
you
thank you.
have a look at the Jill illustrations Instagram, please, if you haven't done so already, and if you're a fan of art, please go and have a look.
Ah.
You have an amazing style. It's all mixed. It's great. So, very quickly, you'll work on some of those movies, Shazam, etc., and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I know you're doing something 2D at the moment. What are you talking? Because it's and this is ignorance talking here, but the VFX departments of movies are huge and they're so varied, right? So you have
Yeah.
modelers and people who do
Yes.
the like skinning. What do you call it?
Yeah, they're all very different departments. So
Right.
I'm
So,
specifically in animation, the animation department. Yeah.
right. So in something like Shazam, for example, what exactly would
Yeah.
you be doing?
Okay, so I'm gonna try and explain it in a similar way. So as an animator specifically, so if you work in a big VFX studio, like the bigger the production, the more specified the jobs get. This is usually the case in most industries, right? It's not just my industry. So like the bigger the company get, the more kind of separated the jobs get, right? The more specific the jobs get. So as an animator in the VFX industry specifically, all you do is animating. And what that means is, so in 3D animation, what you get a digital puppet, essentially. So yeah, it's kind of, you can just imagine Pinocchio, but in the computer, right? Like it's a digital puppet that you can move around. All of this has been done for you by other departments. It has to have been modeled, right? It has to have been rigged, exactly, the rigging, so, you know, in order to make it be able to move and stuff. And we get just the puppet and the scene that has been laid out for us already by another department, which is layout. So the camera is in there already, the background plate, so the real live footage is in there already, that we need as a reference, right? And the 3D environment that's also been built. So it's, you know, the whole set has been made in 3D so that you can actually place the character, this digital character, within that environment, because all of it has to be recreated in order to have then, you know, realistic lighting and effects and all of that stuff, right? So as an animator, what I do specifically is I move the puppets.
Okay, you make,
so I create the movement.
Cool. Okay. And
so
what's that using? Is that Maya or Maya? Sorry, or
Maya? No, Maya is the industry standard. There are some places have proprietary software, some places use other software, but Maya is the industry standard in most places.
I heard that.
But but if you know how to animate in one program, you know how to animate in all programs. You just
the principles are the same.
You just have to relearn where the buttons are.
Right. I've tinkered with Blender, for example, before. It's a bunch of fun using that, and Maya as well, but it was really expensive at the time.
Maya is stupid expensive.
It's really, but I mean, I suppose that's why it's industry standard though. But Blender's catching up, I hear. It's catching up. Like,
it's quite good apparently. I mean, I've not looked into it too much because no time, but it's great. I love that. I love the fact that an open source software that is becoming this powerful.
Amazing.
Great.
Okay, so I'm gonna finish there, but we are definitely gonna do part 2. So Jill, part 2 is gonna be on the schedule for shoresies because I want to know more. But thank you so much for coming and sharing with us your stories.
My pleasure. It was very chaotic though. Sorry.
I love that kind of thing too, and I'm sure people will enjoy it. And I'm gonna get feedback, so I'll let you know. But Jill too. Thank you very much, Jill. Go and check her out. Jill Illustrations on Instagram, at JillyMouse on Twitter, and then on YouTube, Jill Illustrations as well. And soon, potentially another channel for her Korean learning journey as well.
Yes, potentially.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.